You know, up until a bit ago, I was Alice. Just Alice. Now, I'm that Alice, the one folks whisper about when they think I can't hear 'em. My friends, they don't know the half of it. The ones I work with at the hospital, they see the bruises under my eyes, but not the ones wrapped around my self-esteem. They don't know how my scrubs hide more than they show. Girl, you okay? Sara, who's been with me since nursing school, asks as we change into our scrubs. Gotta love her for trying. Yeah, I'm good, I say, but we both know it's a lie. Just didn't sleep much, is all. Sara tugs at the sleeve of my once bright scrub top, now a dull shade I can't even name. Didn't you used to wear that electric blue one? You were all about those bright colors. Ain't seen that in a minute. Guess I just go with what's clean these days, I shrug, avoiding her eyes. Clean or not, this ain't you. What did that man do to your closet, girl? Suck the life out of it just like he's been sucking the life out of you? There's an edge to Sara's voice now, it's got a bite that says she's not just asking out of curiosity. You talk too much, you know that? I fire back, trying to keep it light. But Sara ain't having any of it. And you don't talk enough. Spill it, Alice. Just then, another nurse, Betty, who's been eavesdropping, snips in from across the room. Oh, leave her alone, Sara. Everyone sees she's down since the big day. Pretty damn clear something's going on. I see silence clamps down on me like a vice. They're all waiting for me to say something, but what do I tell them? That the man of my dreams turned out to be the con artist of my nightmares? How Tom's swipe at my confidence is more regular than our meals together. Marriage, huh? More like a wrestling match where I lost before I even got in the ring. Not everyone needs to air their dirty laundry for the world to see, Betty. Sara snipes back, her loyalty warming me a fraction. I sneak a glance at her. Really, it's nothing, okay? Tom's he's stressed with work and all. Stressed, my. She scoffs under her breath, but drops it for my sake. The rest of the shift I can feel their eyes on me, a mix of pity and concern. It's like I've become the lead in some bleak show where I didn't even audition. The day drags on and I lose myself in the comfort of routine, checking charts, handing out meds, comforting those worse off than me. At least at work, I can pretend I'm who I used to be. Clocking out feels like I'm walking the plank. The drive home is short, the dread long. Tom's car is in the drive when I pull up. My stomach's doing gymnastics, hoping today's a good day. But when I open the door, the air's thick with silence, worse than shouting. He's at the kitchen table, bills spread out like a losing hand of cards. His eyes flick up to me, and there ain't any welcome there. You're late, is his curt greeting. Traffic, I mumble, dropping my bag, the weight not just from the contents. He grunts, dinner? Sure, gimme a minute to change. I stumble over the words, eager to get out of my scrubs and into something less, me. In the bedroom, I swap my work greens for the gray sweater that seems to have become part of my skin. I catch my reflection in the mirror. Sara's right. The colors, hell, they're gone, and not just from my closet. It's like I've faded to some dull version of myself, some upstanding man's wife who nods more than she speaks. I get to peeling potatoes, the knife's repetition numbing. Sometimes I think if I make the meals bland enough, they might just blend into the walls, into the air, and I can fade out with them, stop feeling like a damn fool for marrying a man whose sweet nothings turn sour as milk. Then, the silence breaks. Alice, did you pick up my dry cleaning? His voice cuts across the quiet. Forgot, I admit. I'll get it tomorrow. He tsks, a sound that says more than his words do. Never mind, I'll do it myself. Unlike some, I actually get things done. I don't argue. I've learned that much. Dinner goes by in a tense truce, me focusing on not stirring the pot, while he eats like it's just fuel. No words about the food, no words about us. At this point, I'm not sure which would be worse. Life's funny in a twisted sort of way. You wake up, do your thing, go to bed, and somewhere in all of it, you miss the moment everything tipped sideways. For me, it was the hours at work stretched out longer and longer, and home, well, that wasn't home no more. At the hospital, my shift seemed like a breeze next to my life with Tom. But damn if those hours weren't piling up like dirty laundry. 12-hour shifts turned into 14, then 16. Gotta make ends meet, right? It was a typical Friday, or whatever day it was. After enough double shifts, they all just sort of blend together. Around the millionth hour, I was sitting in the break room, trying to remember the last time I had a day off. Sara dropped into the chair next to me, her coffee splashing over the side as she did. "You're still here? Jesus, Alice. You plan on just moving in?" I tried to smile, but it felt like doing a pull-up after an all-nighter. "The bank doesn't cash in smiles, Sara." "You working the late shift again?" she asked, the concern in her eyes clear as day. Wringing my hands, I just nodded. "Tom thinks we need the extra cash. Bills and all that." Sara's brows furrowed. "Not like he's bringing in any prizes with his job. When do you two even talk?" The break room felt too small right then. "He's busy," I mumbled, looking away. "Busy being king of the castle," she muttered under her breath. I knew better than to argue. "He's got a lot on his plate," I offered weakly, knowing even as I said it that Tom's plate was filled with nothing but complaints and excuses. The shift dragged on, my feet dragging along with it. Patience blurred together, suffering brushed past like just another symptom of my day. Heading home, the evening chill matched my mood. I stepped into the house, the silence greeting me like the unwanted neighbor it was. "I'm home," I announced to the emptiness. Tom appeared from somewhere, a sour look on his face. "Great, you can make dinner now. I'm starving." "Sure, Tom," I agreed, dropping my bag by the door. I was too tired for a fight, too tired to stand up and tell him that actually, no, I wasn't put on this earth just to make his dinner. Later, after I'd served a meal I couldn't taste, Tom was jabbing at the proteins and carbs on his plate like they'd done something to insult him. "What about that electric bill? They'll shut us off if you don't pay it." "Yeah, I know," I said, "I'll take care of it tomorrow." "And the car needs service." He didn't look up from his plate. "That costs, you know." "Your pile of shifts actually doing anything to help with that?" I swallowed down the lump in my throat. "Seems like it never ends, huh?" Tom snorted. "Sure doesn't. Especially with your pathetic checks. Why I always gotta deal with this crap." Excuses were on the tip of my tongue, a defense ready to spring to my lips, but what was the point? He had his mind set. So I bit down on the words, bit down hard. Later, in bed, I stared at the ceiling. I'd spent so long thinking that if I just kept at it, kept working and washing and saying yes, that maybe things would turn around. But those hours at the hospital, they were shrinking my life down to something I didn't even recognize anymore. And Tom? He'd already faded from the picture. The sound of keys in the door had a way of making my stomach drop. It was like Pavlov's dogs, if Pavlov's dogs had in-laws from hell. Carla and Martin, Tom's folks, had this knack for showing up just when I felt I was about to catch my breath. I hear them before I see them, their voices cutting through the silence of my supposed sanctuary. "Alice, darling, I hope we're not intruding," Carla calls out, and yeah, she knew she absolutely was. "I made some coffee, Alice dear. Hope it's not as weak as last time," Martin chimed in, and I couldn't help the eye roll. Not that they'd even notice if they saw it. Like unwanted clockwork, there they were in my kitchen, wearing their Sunday best on a Tuesday night, peering over my shoulder. "Have you done something new with your hair, Alice? It just seems so limp." Carla's words are like sandpaper, all grit, and no care. Martin, not wanting to be left out of the insult party, adds his bit. "And how's our Tommy? You keeping him happy? You know, a happy husband is a happy life." I'm nodding, slicing through carrots with more force than necessary. "Tom's fine. And it's happy wife, happy life." Carla laughs, a sound that's like nails on a chalkboard to me. "Oh, dear, you have it all mixed up. But that's okay, we can't all be naturals at this wifely business." Just then, Tom walks in, and I'm thinking maybe I can escape to the bathroom or something. "Hey, look who's here. Mama's making jokes at Alice again," he says, and I can hear the grin in his voice. Carla beams at him. "Just giving her some pointers, darling. Heaven knows she needs them." I clench my jaw, watching Tom laugh it off. "Alice, babe, why don't you freshen up a bit? You look tired." It's like I'm not even there and they're discussing the weather or something equally as bland as Tom asks his parents about their day like I'm the help who's just left the room. Later, after what feels like the longest evening of my life, I'm scrubbing at a pot thinking, I can't do this anymore. I'm about to break, about to say something, when Tom leans against the doorframe. "Come on, Alice, don't be like that. It's family." "Family doesn't make you feel like crap, Tom." "Maybe not in fairy tale land, Alice. But in the real world, you gotta take the rough with the smooth," he says, and I can tell he thinks that's the end of it. "And when's the smooth coming exactly? Because I've had a rough few months," I shoot back, my voice is sharper than I intend. Tom throws his hands up and walks away. "You're being dramatic." Dramatic. That word bounces around my skull as I lie down on the couch because the bed feels like it's on another planet right now. Is it dramatic to want some peace? Some respect? Is it dramatic to not want to listen to your husband and his parents talk about you like you're just a piece of furniture, a piece that's not quite to their taste? I found out about the missing cash when I was at the counter trying to buy a sandwich. My hand dug around, touching nothing but gum wrappers and old receipts. Back home later that day, I cornered Tom in the kitchen. Sink piled high, air thick with silence. "Tom, did you borrow cash from my bag?" He didn't even pause, stacking dishes with a clatter. "Yeah, I needed it." I took a breath, counting to 10. Didn't help much. Needed it for what exactly? He shrugged, a casual lift of shoulders that didn't match the tightness in his voice. "Stuff. Men's stuff, you wouldn't get it." "I wouldn't get it or you won't tell me?" I snapped, tired of dancing around. He turned then, eyes hard. "What's it to you? It's our money, Alice. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine." I felt a chill then, deeper than the words he spoke. "So you just take it? Without asking?" What do I need to ask permission for, huh? I'm the man in this house. There was that word, man, like it explained everything. But mostly, it just explained why I felt alone even when he was right there. So what, I just have to guess when my stuff will go missing now? He glared, and a part of me wished he'd just yell instead of looking at me like that. "You get what you give, Alice. Remember that." I wanted to scream, throw something, anything to show how this felt. But I was so damn tired. "You think I don't give? Look around, Tom. Look at this house, at me. I give till it hurts." He didn't reply, turning back to the sink, and we both knew he had nothing to say. I left him there with his mess, our silence loud enough to shake the walls. I sat on our bed later, sorting through bank statements. Numbers danced before my eyes, refusing to add up. It wasn't just the cash from today. It was more. "Can't sleep?" Tom stood at the bedroom door, voice empty of whatever made people human. "Just trying to make sense of our accounts. They're all over the place." He leaned against the door frame, a shadow. "Maybe you're the one spending without telling." A laugh escaped me before I could lock it up. It wasn't even a good one. "Right. Me. You got me, Tom." "I've been buying, what exactly?" "Because I still wear the same clothes, still eat the same food." "You're getting sarcastic now?" He crossed the room, throwing himself into the chair by the window. "Not a good look on you." I didn't want to cry, not in front of him. "Just tell me why, Tom. Why are you doing this?" He didn't respond, didn't even say goodnight. He just left, door clicking softly behind him in the kind of quiet that roared. It was happening again. Tom, sprawled on the couch, a half-empty bottle dangling from his fingers. The TV was blaring some sitcom, the laugh track mocking me. Tom, come on, not tonight, I said, eyeing the bottle. He looked up, his eyes glazed. Why not? This is the good stuff, Alice. I reached for the bottle, but he pulled it away like we were kids playing keep away. Please, Tom, the drinking. He laughed, and it stung because it didn't reach his eyes. It's the only way I can stand you. That hurt. It cut deeper than any knife could. Am I really that bad? My voice barely above a whisper. He stood up now, a little wobbly, and patted my head like I was the family dog. Nah, you just need to lighten up, babe. I'm trying, Tom. God knows I'm trying. My patience was wearing thin, fraying at the edges. He shrugged and walked to the fridge for another beer. You think your nagging will change anything? I drink because I want to, not because of anything you do or don't do. I followed him, anger replacing the worry. So, this is just you, then? Self-destruct mode full on? Stop making a big deal out of it, he said, snapping the cap off with more force than necessary. A big deal? I raised my voice now, no longer able to contain the frustration. I'm scared, Tom. You're drunk every night, and we're losing us. Us? He laughed loud and hard, but it was as hollow as our bank account. Honey, us checked out a long time ago. My heart was pounding now, each beat screaming at me to do something, anything. So, what? We just pretend? Laugh along with the sitcoms while our life turns into some trashy drama? He leaned close, his breath sour. Nobody's asking you to play pretend, Alice. You don't like it, there's the door. That's done, that he could just throw me away, after all, we've been through. If it's so easy for you, why don't you leave? He snorted and grabbed his jacket. Maybe I will. Have a night out, away from this prison. Go then. See if the bar crowd can put up with your crap, I said, my voice harsher than I meant it to be. The door slammed, echoing in the empty house. I blinked back tears. This wasn't just about the drinking. It was about respect, about love, and whatever was left of our marriage. And I sat there on that too quiet evening, the fake TV laughter rolling over me, asking myself when we'd become such strangers, wondering if the laughing had ever been real. My apartment, a tidy little place downtown, was a piece of my independence. I inherited it from my Aunt May, a spitfire of a woman who never married and always used to say, a woman needs her own set of keys. I rented it out mostly, a little bit of cash flow that didn't depend on Tom. Then one day, Tom says to me, I got this project, gonna be working late. Cancel the lease. I need a spot to crash. Didn't sit right with me, but I did it, told the tenants it was family emergency stuff. A couple weeks in, I get this itch in my brain, like something's off. I'm not nosy by nature, but I need to see. So, I head over to the apartment, mid-evening. I had the spare keys since Aunt May's time. I walk in, and there it was, a whole other life sprawled across my inherited linoleum. Tom, with some woman I don't know, too cozy in the apartment that once belonged to my aunt. My heart didn't just break, it snapped like cheap plastic. His head turns, that grin spreading across his face. The kind of grin that means trouble. Why so surprised, Alice? It's not like you're fun anymore. Something in me went cold, like the freezer where Aunt May used to keep her vodka. Fun, I spat the word out like it tasted bad. So this is your idea of a late night at work? He yawned, stretched like he wasn't just caught in the wrong. Relax, Alice. It's nothing serious. Just blowing off steam, you know? I looked past him at her, sitting on the edge of the bed, grabbing at the sheets. You two have fun, I said, the words sharp as the keys in my pocket. Then I turned, marched myself straight out of that apartment, the door slamming shut like a gavel coming down. Tom just laughed, that ugly laugh of his, as I walked away. But that apartment? That little space was the last thing Aunt May left me. It was supposed to be my safety net, not a web of lies. And in that moment, I saw the whole thing for what it was, a farce. Tom never wanted a place to work late, he wanted a playground. I wasn't gonna be the fool in his game. Not anymore. That was the revelation, not just Tom and his mistress, but the truth that my keys, my independence, was the real love affair I needed to rekindle. Walking into what used to be our home, the place felt suffocating. There I was, in the thick of it all, forcing myself to skim through years stuffed in drawers and closets. Each shirt I folded was like turning a page I had read two wrong times. Every piece folded was another "I'm done." I didn't even need the heavy air to tell me, every corner of that place was yelling it at me anyway. The dusty photo frames caught my eye, and for a hot second, I considered wiping them clean. But, nah, let the past catch dust. I pulled out the suitcase, the one with a broken wheel, oh, the irony, and started packing up. "Hey, you're making quite a racket there, aren't ya?" His voice cut through from the living room, pulling up memories I'd rather keep boxed up. "Just packing what's mine," I called back, my voice steady. "Taking the good wine glasses?" he jabbed, half interested. "Don't need 'em. You can toast to your crap alone." A grunt from him, and the sound of his boots on the tile. I kept my focus on the suitcase, no, not even a glance his way. "Where you gonna go?" he tossed out, casual, like he's asking about the weather. Away. That's all he needed to know. "Need some cash?" The offer was flippant, almost mocking. "Keep your money." My voice was ice. "I'm good." He grunted again, coming closer. "Never thought you'd walk out." "Neither did I. Surprise, surprise." "This how it's gonna be, then?" "One foot in front of the other," I replied. That much was clear to me. A scoff. "You think you'll make it out there?" I zipped up the suitcase, my answer firm. "I'll survive." "You know, you could stay." "Stop. Just, stop." He fell quiet then. He knew. I knew. This was overdue. The suitcase full, I snapped it shut. That click was louder than any door slam. I dragged the lopsided luggage behind me, the wonky wheel tapping out my exit rhythm. The silent exodus, no dramatic goodbyes, no audience to my leaving. Just me. Just like it was gonna be from now on. 2 years had gone by when my past decided to make a comeback. I had just emerged from the hospital with spring in my step when I saw them. Tom, looking like a kicked dog, and his mom, who always had a word or 10 to say, hovered near the entrance like dark clouds. "Alice," Tom broke out, sounding like he owned the place, which was rich, considering the mess he'd left me in. "We need you back." The audacity hit me first, then the laughter. It bubbled up, before I could even think to stop it. His mom chimed in, wringing her hands like she was washing the world's guilt off them. "It's terrible. We're drowning in debt, and after his dad's stroke, we need someone to take care," she rambled. Tom straightened up and said, "I'm willing to forgive you and let you come back." His words came out like he was doing me a favor. I could only laugh. I laughed till tears threatened the corners of my eyes, not of anguish, but a release of something heavy, a chain of the past falling off. That's when a man's voice cut through the tangle. "Everything okay here?" We all turned. It was Ian, standing there, our little girl cradled in his arms. Her cheeks were rosy, her eyes curious, untouched by the mess, just a few feet away from her. "This is my husband, Ian," I said with pride in my voice that echoed firm and true. "And our daughter, Lily." The shock on Tom and his mother's faces could have powered the city for days. My life had moved on while they'd remained stuck, playing reruns of a show no one wanted to watch again. Tom's mouth opened and closed, no sound coming out. His mom looked like she'd swallowed a wasp. The difference from 2 years ago struck me then, how much standing there meant. It wasn't about who I stood beside, it was about who I stood as. Stronger, surer, and wrapped in the kind of joy that doesn't fade. I steered Ian and Lily away from the demands, the debt, away from a history that could only ever be just that, history.
"All right, everyone's presentations are done," Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked. We could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children. With zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick? What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1, if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.